Now, Inga, the floor is yours, and welcome all the panelists.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you, panelists, for joining me today, and thank you for everyone who is still joining the panel. My name is Inga Gaižauskaitė, and I'm a researcher in sociology at Lithuanian Center for Social Sciences and also board member of INAI. Some of my research and academic integrity promotion initiatives have been linked to secondary education level, and also my personal experience with having two students at the higher secondary education level increases the interest in the topic. And thus I see this panel, which is titled Fostering Academic Integrity in Secondary Education, as a great platform to once again turn the focus on how do we deal with integrity at the secondary education. The issues that further levels of education deal with actually have roots in much earlier stages of human development and education. And therefore, the aim of this panel was to bring research and also practice-shaped insights. How do we promote academic integrity at the secondary education level, and also how can we develop a more consistent linkage between secondary and higher education levels. And therefore, let me introduce the esteemed panelists I think correspond to this aim really well. I would start with Dr. Mustafa Yunus Yaman, who represents the World Education Research Association, WERA, which aims at advancing education research, and he also represents Çanakkale University in Turkey. Hello, Mustafa.
Hello, Inga. Thank you very much for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you. Welcome. Then we have Dr. Zinat Reza Khan, whom many of you also know, coming from University of Wollongong in Dubai, and she also represents the Center of Academic Integrity in United Arab Emirates. And as I know, Zinat has been involved in some great educational initiatives with the secondary level of education. So welcome, Zinat.
Thank you so much, Inga. It's so great to see a panel on this topic, focusing on secondary schools. So I'm very excited to be here and joining all of you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Zinat. Then we have Charlotte Ron, who currently is working at the University of Gävle, if I pronounce it well, in Sweden. And she also has done some research that covers academic integrity at the school level. Welcome, Charlotte.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here, participate here today, and that this topic is kind of enhanced, underlined. It's a very important topic.
Thank you. And further, we have Dr. Brenda Stolz, who represents the Center of the Advancement of Teaching and Learning at the University of Manitoba, Canada. And she brings together her past experiences as a secondary school educator, also being a parent of secondary school student, and doing research in the area. Welcome, Brenda.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here, and I look forward to this discussion.
Thank you. And finally, we have our last but not the least important panelist, Vilda Kiaunytė, who represents Lithuanian Association of Heads of Schools and also Inžinerių Lyceum in Lithuania. So she's directly involved in management of school education, and so has this like first-hand experience for the topic of our panel. Welcome, Vilda.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm so happy to be there and just participating in this panel. Really relevant topic. Thank you.
So as we have agreed, we will have about 30 minutes for discussion of the panelists, and then we will try to leave about 10 minutes for the questions and answers. Let me start with the question which goes to each of the panelists, and it's quite of a broad, but what is your perspective if and why we should focus on integrity at the secondary school level. And based on how my screen is showing your order, I would like to start with Zinat.
Okay, thank you so much, Inga. I think it's very important, and I only noticed it because, again, I think pretty much like you, I have a daughter who is going through, she went through primary and now she's in secondary. And looking at the way sometimes assessments are given, the way the instructions are provided, and the way I see sometimes she gets really frustrated because she's doing the work on her own, but then she's got friends who are getting their parents' help or older siblings' help. And, you know, I can see the frustration build up when the teacher then ends up recognizing the other projects or the other work ahead of the students who are actually trying to do their own work. And it is even more important because it is leading up to higher education, right? By the time they come to us, we get them every semester for like, what, 3 months? We can't change mindsets in 3 months. It's very, very difficult. Yes, they're in university for 3-4 years, but in that 3-4 years, they're not with one lecturer for a year or 3 years or 4 years. They're with one lecturer for 3 months of a year, which is the term, like a semester or whatever it is that we call in different countries, right? But they're in the school for 12 years minimum, you know, and if you're doing A-levels, then maybe 13 years. But that's where this kind of dialogue and conversation needs to happen, because that's where they're really shaping what the students believe to be, you know, the norm, what is accepted behavior, what they can and cannot do. I will, of course, let other panelists speak as well. Thank you, Inga.
Thank you, Zinat. Brenda, what could you add to this?
Well, there's a number of reasons, but I think what drew me to this area, and aside from being a parent of children in the K-12 system and being a former teacher, is that university professors indicating that students coming into their classrooms just don't have the skills that they need to act with integrity and to avoid cheating. And that led me to doing some research with high school students to determine what their level of knowledge around cheating was, and realizing that they were being targeted as young as the 6th grade with these contract cheating companies. And so apps are marketed to very young students, and they just don't have the skills at the younger ages to recognize that these are things that they shouldn't be engaged in. And so that's really where I'm quite interested in this topic. And, you know, having a daughter in high school, having her indicate or tell me that, you know, Mom, I've seen these apps on, you know, Snapchat, on my social media, really has made me feel that this is a really important topic to discuss and to work on and bring awareness to K-12 teachers so that they can help to bring awareness to their students about the dangers of contract cheating.
Thank you, Brenda. Charlotta, you did some research at this secondary education level, so I suppose you also can highlight if it's important to look at it.
Right. So I followed one class from 8th grade to 9th grade at a Swedish municipal school, and especially in the interviews, I did interviews, video recordings from the classroom, and observations during several months. But especially during the interviews, the pupils told me about what actually I never saw when I observed the classes, the lessons inside the classroom. They told me about how they used informal social strategies inside the classroom, but especially outside the classroom, where they collaborated in groups to string together, so to say, individual assignments, written assignments that were handed in individually to the teachers to be assessed and graded. And though it took place outside school, it was almost impossible for the teachers to notice this, be aware of this. When I reported back to the teachers, at the school, they were shocked. And what the pupils told me was that they had started with this in 6th grade, which in Sweden has been recently until I think it will change next year, the first year where the children are graded at compulsory school. And they started with these informal social strategies in 6th grade. So CNAP has highlighted how pupils can get help from parents, whatever. Brenda has highlighted how they can be contacted by a contract tutors company. But what I saw was informal social strategies within the class that is almost impossible for neither parents or teachers to discover. And it took place, it was, for example, that they could send text messages to each other, where they, to the high achieving girls in the class, and they wrote, please, can you take a picture of your written assignment and forward it to me, and I will rewrite it in my own words. And what was the most crucial in this was that they said that when they started with this in 6th grade, they had no idea that it was wrong, that they should not do that, because it's a generation where they are so used to sharing everything. So they started sharing before they were aware that it was not that way it was supposed to be done. And then when a couple of years later, they understood that this was not the way to do it, some of the pupils, they were already far behind and had huge problems, actually even didn't try to catch up learning opportunities that they had missed out during several years. So that is my contribution to this.
Thank you, Charlotta, very much. And I would like to ask now Mustafa, because you represent the education research association, and also so probably talking from the educators' perspective. So please.
Yes. Thank you very much, Inga. Especially my specialization is on evidence-based research. And then I wanted to check what's going on in the field in regard to the academic integrity in secondary education. What I realized that there is a big amount of data about what's going on in the field. When we check the data, it says that especially a meta-analysis study conducted a few years ago indicates that the occurrence of academic dishonesty has increased significantly over the 40 years, and students may engage in questionable academic activities. The research says that because they want to save time, do not recognize these activities as dishonest or serious, feel that cheating is the norm, and believe that the benefits of cheating outweigh the potential consequences. And when we look at the research studies findings, we realize that as many as 95% of students from grades 9 to 12 have cheated at least once for any type of violation. And university professors also complain about the lack of their first-year students' awareness about academic integrity. And given this research evidence, it's easy to say that it's very important to teach secondary school students about academic integrity, to correct any misconceptions they have about the unacceptable schoolwork and avoid inappropriate learning activities. I think research evidence indicates the importance of teaching academic integrity in secondary, not even secondary level, even in the elementary level. This is what I would like to say.
Thank you, Mustafa. Yeah, I think that so far everyone more or less agrees that even secondary education is not the initial point where we have to start caring about integrity and actually teaching the students about it. But before we move forward, I would like to turn to Vilda. Vilda's laptop stopped working and she will be back. So I think for now we can move a little bit further. So all of you indicated certain risks, and there are a lot of risks how students at the secondary level can engage into the practices that are not aligned with the protection of but they don't even realize it. So what would you say are the main counter sources? Yeah, so who could help them to shape their practices in the right direction? Who would like maybe to start now so that I don't, yeah, Zinat, please.
Okay, I can go. Because my work focuses on younger students, I've been really looking at parents as the first point of contact, where we really need aware parents who know what they're doing and how that, what kind of implication that has on their child in the long run. A lot of parents that we have spoken to in this context, actually, really, they look so shocked at what the implications can be as the children grow up. And when we talk to them about the kind of behaviors that we see in university and then how they're not allowed, this automatically raises eyebrows. They cannot believe it. They honestly cannot believe that them helping their child in in projects when they're kids could actually have such detrimental impact in the long run. So I do definitely think parents will be one point of contact for children while they're still in school. Inga?
Thank you. Who would like to continue? So what can we do? What could be the sources that can help?
Charlotte,
maybe. Mustafa? Sorry, Charlotta, yes.
Yes, right. The problem is very complex. There is an enhanced focus globally on the individual pupils and their performances. And at the same time, there is this the social media, the use of social media, new technology, etc., where sharing is very common. In the Swedish curricula, it is very clear that pupils are to help each other at school. They are to work independently, but they are also to work together, to read each other texts, to give feedback to each other texts, to be able to assess their own texts and their peers' texts. But what I think is a problem is that I don't think that the curriculum makers had in mind that so much might go on outside school. And that is what my pupils told me, that most of their schoolwork were actually produced outside school. So one way to kind of a counter source to tackle this could be to give pupils assignments that are to be done inside the classroom, and where the teachers can follow their progress rather than assessing the results. And I know, because I observed one class for 4 months, and I heard the teachers over and over and over again saying, you're not allowed to work at home, you're supposed to work at school, you have to finish this during lessons, you have 3 lessons or 3 weeks to finish this, it should be done in the classroom. But it's very difficult for a teacher to kind of supervise 25 pupils, 30 pupils, that they actually work in class. And I think that a key to this would be to find means to focus on that pupils actually work on their assignments inside the classroom.
Thank you, Charlotta. I see Mustafa, just a moment. Sonia, Vilda has some issue coming back as a panelist. Could you please look at that? Yeah, Mustafa, please.
I think we can develop a multifaceted methodology that includes both implementation of school-wide education programs and context-specific prevention strategies. What I mean by school-wide education programs, that majorly we call this type of implementation as procedural ethics, meaning that the schools, I visited many secondary education websites, and then I'm very surprised that many schools are now placing all this information about academic integrity on their websites, and that they are indicating what will be the outcomes and the issues that can come with the academic misconduct. I was very surprised. Even I found several high schools in Turkey demonstrating they created a very elaborative website about these issues. But we also need to provide the case-based scenarios that students can find, and then they can relate this type of case scenarios to their teaching and learning processes. And I think this is what we call ethics of care. And talking to students, bringing them together, and then having an honest conversation about the importance of academic honesty is, I think, one of the way to deal with this issue. Therefore, I am laying out two important concepts. The first one is school-wide education programs. The second one is situational, or what we call ethics of care approach to academic integrity. Thank you.
Thank you. And Brenda, would you bring something also? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so I agree with all the panelists here. A multifaceted approach is probably what is necessary, targeting, administrators of schools and bringing awareness to teachers and, of course, parents. In Canada, I have looked at a random sample of high school academic integrity policies, or at least looked for them, and less than 50% of the policies, the student conduct handbooks, had some kind of statement about academic integrity. And when they did, it was really just one sentence about do not plagiarism, or possibly one sentence about do not cheat on exams, but that was pretty much it. And speaking with some principals about the topic, I have found quite a bit of resistance. And their reasoning has been, well, students are just becoming scholars in high school, and so this is really not an issue for us, which I find quite surprising. So because I work in this area and I have children, I talk quite a bit about academic integrity with my children. So, for good or bad, they might be tired of me talking about it, but we talk a lot about context. So sharing is not bad when it's in the right context. Sharing or cheating off of others is it's not a good idea when it's in a different context. So I think speaking to students about context and getting them to think critically about their actions in particular situations is important. So parents can be part of that. They should be part of that when possible. If they can have those, they feel comfortable having those kinds of conversations with students. But I think teachers are really crucial here, and the support from administrators, and of course, lots of different levels. So if everyone's sort of talking about it and having really good conversations about what it means for different levels of students, because different students are ready for these different conversations at different times in their development. I think that would be helpful. But right now, I am noticing, at least in my area of the world, that there's quite a gap here, and it's an opportunity to, we have an opportunity to fill that gap. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda, and Vilda, welcome back. So now I will probably, focus on a bigger question for you. So you represent both, one school and as well the organization of schools in Lithuania. So how would you see it from this perspective of school and also school administration? How do schools deal with these questions, or maybe do not deal to the extent that we would expect? Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a big question, and of course, it's very, very important. Well, I think that the bigger problem here is that we are trying to deal. However, the success, is very limited. And I think that in Lithuania, well, especially in our school, I work, by the way, as an English teacher. In the school, or with this, gymnasium classes. So grades from 9 to 12. Especially during the pandemic, because compared to other countries, I must say that we were online most of the time. Basically all the year. And, what I see that, students, they really lack this knowledge of how to learn. basically like on their own. Really this importance of also learning. So that is one thing. However, during the pandemic, I think that lots of students, in the younger classes also, they notice that they can get much better marks. And marks are still very, very important for them. So basically, it means that they will just, will try to use all the means that they can get. And of course, especially when we're using these online tools. So with the administration, or they use other principals. So it is a discussion how to ensure that, for example, during the test, they don't cheat, just like trying to use all the tools. Recording screens, everything. However, so this is still a very huge problem. And of course, so I don't even think that students will see this as a very, I would say, like evil thing to do. They just, like this, they just see this, as sharing, also a means to get a better mark, because, so lots of them say that marks are very, very important for them. So again, maybe we should discuss with them, what is actually important here, to get a number. Basically, or just to think of it, so what you're going to get from the school, and and also goes to the university level, because I just recently heard the story that one of the brightest students, he also went to the English philology to study at university, and he said, okay, so I'm doing this big exam task, and I get a message, because it's a line from my friend, and the friend is like, please send me the task, I will buy you coffee. So it's just like they see them, and of course it's not good. So I think that we're trying to fight, but again maybe lots of talk has to be done, because I'm sure that the teachers administration, we only have the best intents, but the minds of the kids, they have to be changed somehow. Lots of discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. Now listening to all the talks, we had quite a lot of focus on the students. What students do not know, how they behave in one or another way. But I think we should also touch upon the other stakeholders. And now that Vilda talked, also we have teachers, we have school administration, we probably have the outside actors. So like national educational institutions and organizations and so on. So how would you say, what is their role, and maybe what we actually lack also in regard to these stakeholders? And I see Charlotte already has a hand, please.
Yes, like Vilda said, most of the pupils may not consider this evil. The pupils I followed during 2 years, what actually shocked me, honestly, was how unproblematic they considered this. And that, would I say, is one of the main findings in my research. There is an attitude changed. You ask for the teachers, maybe a perspective. One thing that I think that many do not think much about are these software tools, technology that is so common today. And for example, at the school where I conducted my study, all pupils in the class, they had a laptop computer provided by the school. They had the Google Classroom installed on the computer. And the idea with that was that the teachers would be able to enter each individual pupil's computer in real time during lessons and give direct feedback on that particular pupil's work. The pupils, on the other hand, and what the teachers did not know at all, was that the pupils, they both swapped computers with each other behind the teacher's back. I captured that with my video recordings. But they also logged into each other's Google Classroom accounts and wrote original texts for each other. Inside the classroom, it was absolutely impossible to see with your bare eyes because each pupil had a computer in front of him or her, but actually they were writing on someone else's computer somewhere else in the classroom. And they did the same outside school. They could log in to this. So what the softwares and what the technology actually allows is something that we need to be more aware of, and how to tackle that from a teacher's perspective, from a parent's perspective, from a school administration perspective.
Thank you, Charlotta. Zinat, please.
Yeah, I love that example, Charlotta. Thank you so much for that. But that's actually, it's true. This is what's happening in the ground. A lot of the teachers that we have worked with in workshops don't have a clue. They themselves are just going on Google, and they're just downloading things and they're putting it on their slides, whether it's images or text, without any references or any effort of acknowledgement, right? So then that whole concept of attribution and copywriting comes in, which actually has a legal connotation in any country you go, right? So a lot of teachers don't have this knowledge. They don't understand academic integrity isn't just about exam cheating. It goes beyond that. It's not just plagiarism. There's so much more that's encapsulated in the words academic integrity. And a lot of the stuff that we've come across shows that they're not getting this training when they're learning to be teachers. So it's not included when they're learning. It's not included when they're training in professional settings in schools. Where else are they supposed to be picking it up? We actually, as higher education faculty, talk a lot, like a lot about academic integrity. We are training our staff, we are training admin, we are training committee members. We are doing all of that. Schools are not, right? As a working space, they're not doing this. So how are these teachers supposed to know? Unless the teachers themselves have somehow become aware of this from somewhere, and on their own volition, they're going out and reading up on it or watching videos, they're not going to know. And they're going to think everything that's happening is part of the norm, because that's how they've been brought up through that education system, which hasn't introduced them to the values. So I think it's very, very important that we look at pre-service teacher training to begin with, to see, are we even teaching the teachers the values, and how to accept the values, and then how to incorporate the values in their classrooms. Inga?
Thank you, Zinat. Who would like from the panelists to add? Mustafa, I see. Yes, please.
I think one of the difficult things in the world is to change the educational programs at the universities. Many people think that the universities are very liberal and progressive institutions, but most of them, they are very conservative. And changing the structure of the teacher education programs is also an example. Unless there's an external force, such as Council of Higher Education or the other institutions and ministries, it's very difficult to bring this type of conversations to the teacher education programs, to redesign the programs based on these academic integrity issues. Because in these programs, mostly professors see academic integrity in relation to the master's and PhD programs, not to the bachelor programs. Therefore, we need to go back and then discuss this in-service and pro-service training programs, and how to integrate the academic integrity courses or the case programs into the teacher education programs. I think it's very important, but it's a very
I think we have
connection. Can you hear me, Inga?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Now yes.
Yes. Therefore, we need to redesign the pro-service teacher education programs, and the universities needs to collaborate with the school districts about how to train teachers. And it's not about master's or PhD programs collecting data, but it's about the daily activities of the teachers. It's very relevant to their lives. We need to demonstrate this with case examples.
Thank you, Mustafa. Brenda, would you like something to add, because we are kind of moving to the end of the discussion?
Sure. I'll keep it short. So I agree, it needs to be part of teacher education programs, and I think Martine yesterday in her talk really stressed that it's so important, and teachers are the role models for students. And so it's really important to teach the teachers in this regard. And maybe one way to do that is not to see academic integrity as separate from anything else. It's part of fair assessment, reliable and valid testing of students' learning, and focus on the learning aspect of our students. And so that might be one way to convince teachers that it's an important topic.
Thank you, Brenda. And Vilda, would you like to also add something before we move to the questions and answers?
I think I can just agree with Mustafa and what Brenda also said, that we definitely need, this. Well, it would be definitely nice to have the special teacher education programs. Yeah, so basically, something for the others. I guess to get maybe like more ideas. Yeah, but also I think teacher administration. Well, we need to work with students first. Yeah, so just so trying to also to implement these ideas about learning individually, the importance of learning, why they're doing this. Yeah, not just like sharing or quick mark. Yeah.
Thank you, Vilda. Well, it is obvious that we have multitude of questions to discuss. And what we have touched upon, we see that really there is a huge need to focus on the secondary or even earlier education, and that probably schools also need some support from the university so that we have some kind of continuous perspective from early education to the highest levels of education. And now let's try to have at least short question and answer session. I now don't know, because there is discussion going on in chat and questions and everywhere. So let me see. One of the questions is for Charlotta. There are technical means to reward and force students to perform their work in class. Would something like this have enough support from the community? It's Josef Peterfi asks.
I didn't get the question, sorry.
Can I get that?
Yes, so, yes, please, Zinat.
So I think, so we did this short study last year where we looked at schools that sends projects home versus schools that get their students to do their projects in class. And between the two, the one that sends the projects home was the one where both the students and the teachers and the parents felt it was okay for the parents to be involved and do the work. Whereas in the one where the students were expected to do the work in the class itself, that expectation really minimized, because they were expected to be fulfilling the work in the class, and then they were getting actually rewarded for the work that they were doing versus if they were going to get the work done from somewhere else. So more pride in the work that they're doing, and then the grade, and then of course the grades come in secondarily.
Thank you, Zinat. Charlotta, would you like to also comment about if the tasks should be just at school or please?
But I think it's very complex, and I, especially after having followed one class, observed all the lessons this class had over 4 months, I definitely do understand that there is not kind of the calm, the atmosphere, the right mood of creativity in a classroom with 25 or 30 pupils to be able to write assignments or whatever. I definitely do believe that, I do understand that some work is done out of class. I don't think that moving everything inside the classroom would solve all kinds of problems, but it would make it possible or more easier for the teachers to have to follow the progress of each assignment that the pupils actually hand in, because the feedback that is given, now visual learning is very widely acknowledged in Sweden. And so these main questions were assessing where is the pupil heading, and how could we help the pupil to get from the present level to the desired level. All those three questions, they deviate if the work in focus actually has been produced in collaboration with peers. And all the feedback is it's not directed towards the progress or the possibility for the specific individual to make progress from his or her own abilities. And to be able to get access to that, I think it's important to be able to follow the work in progress and give support and get help from peers, but inside the classroom. So to avoid the worst case scenarios outside school, for example, logging into each other classroom, Google Classroom accounts and write original text for each other.
Thank you, Charlotte. I have one question which I think is important because we haven't touched about it. And Zakir is asking, can academic integrity be part of the existing information literacy program, mostly led by school librarians? So who of the panelists would like to comment on that? So what could be the role of librarian? Zinat, I think.
Yeah, sure. I think maybe Vilda can say from the school perspective, or Brenda. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, yes, about the role of librarians, as you said. Well, literacy definitely plays a very big role. Yeah, nowadays in the school, and maybe it can be done something. But again, I'm just thinking that somehow, also this maybe students, creativity, it should be promoted here. Well, I'm just talking about originality, so that we wouldn't make these tasks just much easier for them. So I mean, a copy or something like that. But because while I was listening to all of you, I just remembered that, for example, I mean, so our English teachers, as we're talking, so lots of the tasks are just prepared in advance, and especially if they go online. So if someone finds the answers, then they are going obviously to share them. So I would say that that maybe these integrated things, maybe some original and creative tasks could be created. Something like that.
And if I can add from another perspective, that when we talk about university level, I see that librarians play more and more role in this question. But at schools, at least when we did some research at the gymnasiums in Lithuania, we saw that definitely librarians could play much bigger role in this process, how to work with the information, how to search, how to make correct attributions to the authors and so on. So I suppose my answer would be yes, that librarians definitely could have much bigger impact in that and could be good help both for students and for teachers. However, I suppose we would come back to the question of how much librarians in particular countries or schools are prepared to do that. And that would lead to another discussion. I have one more question. I think the last one, if Sonia will allow these 30 seconds. Kelly asks, if I'm correct in my assumption, we care about collaboration because we believe it is important for students to demonstrate their individual comprehension of a subject or acquisition of a skill. How early can we start this explicit conversation with students? Early meaning to what age of students? So how early we can start this discussion? And Zina raises the hand, please.
Sorry, because I really want to share a quick story from a student first before I answer that question. So while we were doing workshops with school students, a grade 9 student was very brave and said, look, this is what happens to us. We are asked to do group work. We have to collaborate. But then I always end up with students in my group who don't work. And when I tell the teacher, she says, I have to still go back and manage. But you see, no one's teaching her how to manage that. So what ends up happening and has ended up happening for her is that she's gone back and she's done the project herself, and she's had to put her friends' names on that project and then submit it. So she, along with her group mates, give the exact same mark every single time. So then she turned back and said, and then when I actually have other students in my class know that I'm doing this for my group mates, then they come and offer me money to write their projects. And I think, why not make money out of it? I'm doing it for my group mates anyways. Right? So there is a serious need to have this conversation with students as early as possible. I've been talking to my daughter and her class since they were in grade 1. I've been going into these classrooms and I've been talking to them about safe collaboration. It's good to share, it's good to support, but only to a certain point. I think as young as possible is what I would say, because this is ultimately what's going to be happening to students. Inga.
As Mustafa, I think, wanted to say something, right?
Actually, we need to think about the data privacy and its relation to the academic integrity. Because when we talk about academic integrity, we separate it from our daily life. It's not separate. It's a very important and vital part of our daily life, from work to sharing something in Instagram or Facebook, because all these are our private information and data. And when we do a group work, we have to demonstrate how the data that we are producing together, or how we are using different sources from internet and using that type of data in our daily life. And in the future, in our daily work or in our jobs, it's going to create consequences, and then we need to be aware of them. And therefore, it's very important to connect the academic integrity lessons or case examples into the daily activities and daily samples, so that students can see the real importance, how it's relevant to our daily life. I think this is what I would like to say about it's not about academic. When we say academic, we think about the university and high work. It's about our lives, being a critical citizen, democratic citizen. And European Union, we know that European Union is paying a special attention on use of privacy, data privacy. And now there are many stories about how governments are dealing with the big companies to warn them about the data privacy usages. These are also relevant to the academic integrity parts. This is what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mustafa. I see happy Sonia's face here, which shows us that we have to finish our panel. So I would really like to thank all the panelists. I think we touched upon like really myriad of very important points today. And I see that separate discussion goes both in chat and question and answer sessions. So it means that this question of integrity and development of integrity, both in education and probably much wider from quite early age, is very important. And we, as working in the area of promoting academic integrity, should really play our role there as much as possible. So thank you all one more time, and let's consider the panel closed. Sonia, please.
Thank you so much.